Welcome to the Business of Allied Health. It was just a series from CliniScribe, but it's become a podcast now, which is quite interesting. I have here Professor Mark Merolli. I knew him when he wasn't a professor. We've gone a long way back in our digital health. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Barry. Thanks for asking me to do it.
Yeah, so today wouldn't be your putting your digital health expertise hat on. It's more so about your own personal journey. Filtered version. I've always been compelled about how you ended up where you are from high school, why you chose physio, and why you still practice today. And you actually started your own clinic as well, doing all this research at the same time. Tell us a bit about your story, Mark.
Again, I think we do go a ways back. You and I have known each other professionally for a very long time. I wanted to be a physio. I was quite interested in healthcare, human body, coming out of high school. Played sports, had injuries, and that was certainly going to be the pathway. I was always interested in technology, systems, in business, information processing and management. In high school, I actually, people used to say back in the day, pick a subject in your final years of high school that was kind of like the easier subject that you didn't have to put so much brain power in. And
I was about to say that. I think you came from the VCE system like me too.
Yeah, VC, and so sort of like technology and business processing was sort of that for me. Everything else was maths and chemistry and biology.
That's right.
But I was sort of like, that was kind of my decompression zone. Went to uni, did physio, really found my tribe though. Like I loved physio. I actually studied at Melbourne University, flourished, loved it. The connections, the people, they're still my best friends to this day. All the people I went to university with. At that time, I was like, I'm going to be a sports physio, I'm going to be a physio, I'm going to travel and stuff. Okay, out into private practice, kind of what I wanted to do.
Yeah, going fast.
20 years ago, being at the university, Melbourne University's changed a lot, but I was afforded the opportunity, offered some teaching work straight out of university. And that was great. I loved being around the uni. I loved teaching, mentoring and all that. So I've got the opportunity to dip my toes in quite early in academia. Did that for a bit, worked private, sports medicine clinic, sports teams. I was doing all that. Moved to the UK and I spent 3 years in London. The London story for me is kind of where it all changed because I was in London around the time of when the global financial crisis hit and I was working as a locum, physio, traveling. I had put doing a PhD on hold. It was going to be a PhD on the thoracic spine. Spine. It's fascinating to me and that's what I wanted to do. Yeah. But I'd put that all on hold. I wanted to travel, I wanted to work. Basically, my sphere of influence when I lived overseas with a family member. And that time, all the people that I hung out with outside of my physio mates were management consultants, finance people, media types. And it was just the people and the influence and the conversations that I was spending my time with. And outside of physio, I was interested in finding experience, spending time with these guys doing the early days of SEO and and going back again, I'm talking like 2009 and 10, business and healthcare was only just dipping its toes into social media. We'd all been on MySpace and Facebook and all these sorts of things, but hospitals and clinics were starting to create Facebook pages. And I jumped on Twitter account probably the month Twitter came out. And
you're old, man.
Even though it's gone a bit quiet, you'll find me on LinkedIn probably more than LinkedIn. But long story short, online, iPhones, mobile apps, it was all happening at that time. And long story short, it was kind of like, all right, I need something else. I think it's probably an unfortunate bit of a physio story where we'd all kind of start working and I need something more. This is the work that I'm doing. I can see my future. I'm treating patients 6 days a week.
Yeah, grinding it out.
I'm grinding it out. Like I'm either going to open a clinic and all those things were always there. But basically I said to myself, okay, I'm really interested in all this tech, social media and apps. And I remember loving it from back in the high school days. How do I bring this kind of world in? Is there a world where I can marry healthcare, physio and technology? And it's kind of, and I remember calling, most people listening to this podcast might know Gillian Webb, Jill Webb, stalwart of our profession. Yeah. Jill was the head of physio when I went through Melbourne Uni and and mentor to this day. We still catch up occasionally.
Nice.
And I remember ringing Jill and saying, Jill, this is going to sound crazy, almost wanting her to talk me out of it, but what do you think of me doing my PhD, looking at how people are using all this stuff for their self-management instead of telling me I was crazy, which she never did. She marched me over to what was health and biomedical informatics at Melbourne Uni at that time. That no one was doing it in physio, that's for sure. So I ended up doing my PhD in what was the medical school in health informatics. And it basically then started this whole career shift for me in terms of, all right, I'm now a digital health informatics expert in physio. And I guess the caveat, I never didn't practice at that time. Coming out of my PhD, I actually did go into business with a physio that I knew who had a large aged care business, but also had 3 private practices and a community arm. And I actually went on, this is coming like final year of my PhD. I wanted to learn business. I wanted to probably still open my own practice.
Interesting. What drove you towards that, really?
Physio that kind of loves everything about physio, and it wasn't just the clinical practice for me. It just interests me. Teams interest me, technology interests me, strategy interests me. And so I kind of knew that if I was going to stay in this, it probably wouldn't be just typically as a clinician. I've always practiced. Opportunity came up with this guy to work with him, and I took on a stake and basically ran all the private practices and business owner, business partnership. But it was a good time, not a long time. He was going to sell, and I wanted to just learn being a practice director. And I had a team of 15, 20 staff and 3 clinics, and I did that for a couple of years. And yeah, that was kind of coming at a time where he was selling. I finished my PhD, and this is how the kind of academia thing came about, because I got offered a full-time job after finishing my PhD. And so I ended up in the academic game full-time, not expecting to be full-time, but that was it, and never left. And so now, I'm an associate professor at Melbourne Uni in physio. And I've continued to do that. That's probably what's allowed me to flourish and grow the profile and the track record with all my digital health, workforce stuff, education, research projects. I've also got my own little startup and spin out now, which is a digital health app, wearable, early stage venture, funded venture, patent pending, that type of stuff, which we'll talk about another time. The business bug never went away. It's funny because, hence the conversation, I've always practiced. While I was doing PhD in academia, I worked at a big sports medicine clinic, moved to a slightly smaller sports medicine clinic, probably going on 8, 9 years ago, because I had a good relationship with the owners. I did research with the owners, and I wanted to practice, and I was in a position where I could come and go as I pleased, so to speak, see my patients and stay invested, but come and go. But at the time, I also realized I was probably pushing about 15, 16 years out of uni. The patients I was seeing were my network and my patients. It was a bit like, as much as we love practice, I'm almost paying them for the privilege of working there. By the time I factored in their cut, and, it was sort of coming out cost neutral. And so at that point, I was a bit like, look, Mark, put your big boy pants on, and why don't we just look at either getting a room going in a GP clinic or a little venture, satellite clinic. And I've started, and this is probably a takeaway, talking about a bunch of things. I kind of said to myself, how do we kind of do this in the sort of low risk possible way where I can see patients for myself, de-risk it. If I start going down this path, and this is a big tip for me always, is that don't expect things to happen straight away. I'm a bit of a plant a seed type of guy. Conversation to action, I always find takes a couple of years. Long story short, I was practicing a couple of afternoons a week. I thought, why don't I translate that to kind of just me working for myself a couple of afternoons a week? And I'd been a member at my own gym for about 14 years. And my own gym was a beautiful, and still is, family owned and operated sort of a setup, not a chain. And they had space. And the guy that owns the gym's about my age. And I said, hey, what do you reckon this sort of space downstairs, do you see that kind of ever being used for anything? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And that's my point. It was like an 18-year conversation, plant the seed conversation, have a conversation. And basically, go 18 months, couple of years ago, he built me a little treatment area and treatment room. And my own little business now lives within his gym.
Fantastic.
And so I've got my own little clinic growing slowly. My first hire started a week ago. So, which is really nice because that helps, but I'll put someone on. And so I'm basically balancing that and treating patients and running the clinic while I'm here at the uni.
Just a question on that. How would have your last employer kept you? Or it wouldn't have happened. You're destined to, do you know what I'm saying? What? Because the audience here are mostly employers or practice owners.
original employers looking at investment, buying in and stuff like that. And that's a wider business and accounting conversation. At the end of the day, what's your equity stake? What's it worth? What's your cut? How much percentage of the business you're going to own? And that's obviously got to all work for you. But then in terms of the last group, the short answer is probably the latter. I don't think I was ever going to stay. They would have either had to come to me and go, we want you in and we're going to split it 3 ways type of thing. I would have entertained it perhaps, is that there was 2 directors, and the director I was probably most affiliated with in terms of my professional life also moved on. Probably wouldn't have invested with him not there, but I wanted to I wanted to run my own thing. So I just wanted that kind of control. I also had this vision for kind of what I'm now doing, which is bringing together my love of tech and stuff like that. And that wasn't going to happen with somebody else.
Yeah, safe.
Even my own little clinic now, I knew that, as you probably appreciate, get it off the ground, get it operational, get some patients through the door, use that to now where I'm finding myself start dipping my toes into kind of some new service offerings and things I really want to do. But there's services and ideas that don't even exist yet, but I wanted to be able to sell.
Very exciting.
Right? Not do that with someone else. That's another conversation too. But for right now, I'm quite happy basically stomaching the risk, but also reaping the reward myself. So
that's a very interesting insight there. And I think the practitioners need to be aware that the younger physios or the more entrepreneurial ones may leave. You're probably one on the other end of the spectrum in terms of experience. It's like, is that a risk to business to hire someone like you to begin with? Or,
hiring someone like me is tricky though, because again, with me, it was the relationship previously worked because you're getting a kind of experienced autonomous professional who doesn't need his handheld. He's going to come and see patients and kind of leave, but probably isn't investing in the business. So I think it's, again, for employers, what do you want from an employee sort of thing? Do you need someone that can see patients, is going to be a loyal servant of the business? Because every business kind of needs that person too, I think. Versus, if you're going to look at hiring someone younger, you're probably looking at investing in that person and bringing them into your business or something like that. So there's a trade-off, right? That's kind of how I'm looking at it with my new hire at the moment. He's 3 or 4 years out of uni. He's come to me, wants to start taking something on, start small, grow up a bit. He wants business mentoring. He wants technology mentoring. So that was my promise to him and his promise to me, and we'll see what happens. But it gives me an opportunity now to try and have that bigger conversations, try and grow this thing that doesn't rely on me so much, seeing all the patients, which is always a challenge for a business owner.
Nice. And do you have any mentors for your business?
Yeah, me? Do you mean myself personally?
Yeah. Academic mentor?
In saying not formally, we look at all the kind of guys in our profession that do that.
Lots of them.
I won't name them because we're not trying to affiliate ourselves with anyone specifically, but I know that a lot of people, maybe yourself included, get a lot of benefit from that, and I'm open to it too. But no, I don't meet with someone regularly on a fortnightly basis that keeps me honest. Maybe I need it to grow the business. I'm open to it. I haven't done it, but I do have a great sphere of influence of people around me. And these are people that you and I both probably all know as well. But if I want to talk to someone about business, I do ring my mates who own their own clinic, guys from PVA, physio business.
Yeah.
Great community of people there that I can pick up the phone and ring those guys, pick up the phone, ring you. Mentors, but I'm going to have to say they're informal. But I certainly have other mentors like academia and all that as well. So, but it's a great point. It's a great point.
You're a bit polymathic, mate. I love drawing some of these reflections up for myself, and I can relate to it. Great thing about physio is you can work part-time casually, and it can open up other non-clinical opportunities for you.
Absolutely.
Actually grow in both aspects at the same time if you really want that without burning out, right?
100%.
So Mark is...
Well, I think like you and me, the diversity, yes, look, probably guilty of biting off more than we can chew.
I think so.
I think, like you said, the diversity keeps me fresh.
It does.
I like being at the uni. I like going to my clinic and thinking about my business and seeing my patients. Like you said, also being able to kind of go anywhere with my laptop. I can work on my side hustles and my business ideas and my little ventures. I like that though. People would say, "Oh, you work too much," but I'm like, that stuff didn't work to me.
Yeah, that's interesting to me. Yeah,
that's interesting to me. I like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting because you're setting an example for the future. Because I've got a new grad that I've employed here, He thought he was going to be full-time grinding out patients. But then he saw me and was like, actually, I don't want a full-time job anymore as a physio clinically. Doesn't make sense. But he sees that it's possible. So great having examples like yourself doing that and succeeding at it. Last question. What is your words of wisdom for someone who aspires to be the next Mark Merolli?
Oh, God, don't be number one.
No.
Be yourself. If I can kind of leave it with one kind of pearl of wisdom, and it's to learn from my mistakes, do as I say, not as I do type of thing. And that is probably one, keep good people around you, share the load, invest in systems. And this is kind of something that kind of comes with the technology background, but I can't do what I do without great automation and systems and stuff like that. You need to be open to not doing everything yourself. It's the fallacy of business as well. And I'm learning that if my clinic's going to go anywhere where I can't see all the patients, I can't do all the work, I have to empower people and I have to trust people. Again, utilize technology to support what you do and do it well. Learn, always learning. You have, even at 20 years post-grad with a PhD, and you're always learning. You don't know everything. I certainly don't. Be open to learning new things, learn different things, go to business seminars, go to technology seminars, go to management seminars, just hear from people that are doing amazing things outside of healthcare and how do you apply it to your work. Maintain a social life. I know it sounds sick, but you need to feed the soul to feed the rest. Man, where to go? Where to end? I don't know. I could keep going, but I think,
wow, that's a pretty wide-ranging interview. Hefty. We can unpack later on. But yeah, thanks for your time, Mark. I love the conversation there, and haven't heard some of those insights and your personal story before online. So that's fantastic.
Well, even though we've known each other for a while. So more to unpack. I need to interview you next.
Thank you. All right. Thanks for your time, Mark.
Yeah, 100%. And make sure they all stay in touch with all of us. And I'd be interested to see what people end up doing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barry.
Gotcha.